Hey everyone, I'm working to hit 1,000 subscribers and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy this content, please hit that subscribe button right now.
Broncos country, I need you to sit down for this one, because I am about to lay out something that has had me pulling my hair out for days. Somehow, in some bizarre alternate universe, 3 different NFL teams are being handed more predicted wins than your Denver Broncos this season, and every single one of them is currently sitting on a pile of dumpster fire storylines that would make even the most loyal fan base blush. We are talking scandal. We are talking locker room chaos. We are talking offensive lines getting bullied by practice squad players, and yet the so-called experts keep printing win totals for the New England Patriots, the Cincinnati Bengals, and the Buffalo Bills that sail right past Denver's number. Meanwhile, your Broncos, fresh off a 14-win season, an AFC title game appearance, and an offseason where they finally went out and got their alpha receiver, are being disrespected at 9.5 wins. I am not exaggerating when I say it feels like someone's something in the water at the sportsbooks. So buckle up, because we are going team by team, story by story, and by the end of this, you are going to understand exactly why smashing that over on the Broncos win total might be the easiest money you make all season. Before we dive into the wreckage, if you have not already smashed that like button and hit subscribe, now is the time. Because this channel lives and dies on you Broncos faithful showing up for us the same way we show up for you every single week, breaking down everything happening with this team. All right, let us get into it. We start in Foxborough, because honestly, where else would we start? The New England Patriots are currently favored to win more games than your Denver Broncos this season, and they are actually sitting as favorites in their head-to-head matchup against Denver later this year. Let that sink in for a second. A team dealing with arguably the messiest offseason storyline in the entire league is getting more respect than a squad that made it 1 win away from the Super Bowl. So what exactly is going on up there? Buckle up, because it is a lot. First, there is the Dianna Russini situation, and if you have not been following this one, it is an absolute soap opera. Russini, who was one of the top insiders at The Athletic, was photographed hugging and holding hands with Patriots head coach Mike Vrabel at a resort in Sedona, Arizona. The photos leaked, the story exploded, and within a week, Russini had resigned from her job. Vrabel has called the whole thing innocent and laughable, but here is the problem for New England. This scandal has not gone away quietly. New reports keep surfacing. There are still questions swirling about what the Athletic's internal investigation actually found, and there is real chatter from national NFL voices wondering whether Vrabel truly survives the fallout long term, even though the league itself says it is not reviewing his conduct. Think about what that does to a locker room that built its entire identity last season around faith, family, and football. That is not some throwaway phrase either. It was the actual rallying cry stitched onto merchandise sold on the team's own website. Now imagine being a Patriots player wearing that shirt with a straight face while your head coach is the center of a national tabloid scandal involving a reporter who used to cover your own team. That is a credibility problem that does not just evaporate because the calendar flipped to August. And it is not just off-field drama. There are early whispers that receiver A.J. Brown, brought in to be Drake May's #1 weapon, is already showing the same pattern that followed him in Philadelphia, whereby his own admission winning a championship only kept him satisfied for about 48 hours before he went right back to worrying about his own targets and production. Compare that to what May has said publicly, that all he wants to do is win football games, and you start to see a philosophical mismatch brewing before the season has even kicked off. Then there is the offensive line, and Broncos country, this is where it gets almost funny. New England's interior line was already considered a soft spot heading into camp, and then the preseason opener happened. Their top backup center and their top backup guard both went down with injuries in the same game against Indianapolis. Their answer? They scrambled to sign a pair of undrafted free agents off the street, and one of those two names should sound very familiar to you. Joe Michalski spent last season on your Denver Broncos practice squad before getting released. Read that again. The Patriots are so desperate for offensive line depth that they are plucking players your own team decided they did not need. If that does not tell you everything about the state of that trench, I do not know what will. And do not even get me started on the cornerback situation. Christian Gonzalez has been holding out for a new deal all offseason, showing up to some practices but refusing to actually participate, missing walkthroughs, and butting heads with ownership over how his contract situation has been handled publicly. The frustrating part for New England is that the entire cornerback market just got blown to pieces. Seattle just locked up Devin Witherspoon on a historic 4-year, $132 million extension with more than $100 million guaranteed, officially making him the highest-paid cornerback in NFL history at $33 million a year. That number resets everything, including whatever leverage the Patriots thought they had with Gonzalez. Meanwhile, sitting quietly on the other side of this entire conversation is Pat Surtain, your Denver Broncos superstar corner, whose contract already looks like an absolute steal by comparison and only gets more valuable every time another corner resets the market. New England has a locker room scandal, a mutinous top corner, and an offensive line held together with tape and a former Broncos practice squad player. And they are favored over Denver. Explain that one to me. Now let us talk about the team that might frustrate me the most, the Cincinnati Bengals, who are also predicted to win an extra game compared to your Broncos. This is an organization that always shows up to hype season with maximum swagger and then finds a way to underdeliver once the lights actually turn on. Cincinnati just played a preseason game against the backup unit of the Detroit Lions, a defensive line that everyone across the league agrees is thin outside of one dominant pass rusher. And what happened? Joe Burrow was hit on nearly 30% of his dropbacks against backups. That is not a number you post against a contender. That is barely acceptable against a scrimmage squad. Orlando Brown has already been publicly sparring with head coach Zach Taylor about the state of that offensive line, and remember, this is a coach who many analysts believe should have already lost his job a couple of seasons ago, kept around year after year on borrowed time. Here is the root of the problem for Cincinnati. Nearly all of their salary cap real estate is tied up in 3 players: Burrow, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins. That leaves almost nothing to actually build a competent line on either side of the ball. They let Trey Hendrickson walk right into the arms of a division rival in Baltimore, and their big splash addition on the defensive line was Dexter Lawrence, a player already on the wrong side of 30. During that same ugly preseason performance, Dexter Lawrence was reportedly handled by a 6th-round rookie tackle who likely will not even survive final roster cuts. A player who might be selling cars in a few weeks stonewalled Cincinnati's prized free agent edition. That is not a good look for a team that fans everywhere are somehow still picking to outperform your Broncos. And finally, we get to Buffalo, a team I will admit is a little more understandable to have picked ahead of New England in the division, but the gap between their projected win total and Denver's still makes no sense. The Bills are being projected for 10.5 wins while your Broncos sit at 9.5. Let us pick this apart. Buffalo just handed the keys to Joe Brady, the youngest head coach in professional football, a man who has never held a head coaching job at any level before this. And how did the organization respond to that inexperience? They brought in John Fox as a steadying veteran presence. Broncos fans, we remember John Fox fondly here, the man who helped bring Peyton Manning to Denver. But let us be honest about his track record. Fox made it to 2 Super Bowls in his career, one with your Broncos and one with the Carolina Panthers, and he could not get over the hump in either one. Leaning on a coach whose defining trait is getting agonizingly close and then falling short is a strange way to instill confidence in your rookie head coach. There is more. The Athletic has reported that some internal voices around the Bills organization are quietly concerned about just how close Joe Brady and star quarterback Josh Allen are off the field. These two are close in age and reportedly tight outside of football, and history across every sport tells us that when the head coach and the franchise quarterback do not have any built-in checks and balances, things can spiral. On top of that, Buffalo brought in Jim Leonhard as a key piece of the defensive coaching staff. Broncos fans loved Leonhard during his time in Denver as the defensive backs coach and pass game coordinator, but here is the catch. Before that stint, his most recent experience calling an actual defense dates all the way back to 2022 at the University of Wisconsin. The league has changed a lot since then, and asking him to step back into calling plays at this level is a massive leap of faith. Even Buffalo's own fan base is sending up warning signals. One of the most well-known Bills content creators around openly told his own audience that if they are not happy with how the team looked in the preseason, they are never going to be happy. Essentially coaching his own fan base on how they are supposed to feel about what they are watching. Broncos country, when you have to convince your own fans that what they are seeing is good, you have already lost the argument. We have never had to do that in Denver, and we certainly do not have to do it right now, because this preseason has looked outright dangerous in the best possible way. So let us flip the script and talk about why your Broncos deserve so much more respect than they are getting. This is a team that won 14 games a season ago and pushed all the way to the AFC Championship. Instead of resting on that success, General Manager George Paton and head coach Sean Payton went out and finally landed the explosive playmaker this offense has been missing for years. Trading for Miami's Jalen Waddle. Think about what that does to a passing attack that already had Cortland Sutton, Marvin Mims Jr., Troy Franklin, and a developing tight end room. Defenses can no longer load the box and dare Bo Nix to beat them with one-dimensional football. Waddle brings legitimate top-end speed and after-the-catch explosiveness that this offense has been begging for. Speaking of concerns, let us address the one storyline Broncos fans were genuinely nervous about heading into camp: the availability of Jonathan Cooper. Cooper's offseason has been complicated, tangled up in an ongoing legal situation that has followed him since the summer. And there were real questions about whether the league's personal conduct policy review could result in a suspension before the season even started. But when the NFL announced its wave of suspensions right before these preseason games kicked off, Cooper's name was noticeably absent from that list. That means for now, your Broncos get to keep one of the most disruptive pieces of their pass rush on the field, pairing him right back alongside Nick Bonito to keep that pressure package intact. Combine that pass rush with a secondary anchored by arguably the best cornerback in football in Pat Surtain. And this defense has every ingredient needed to keep wrecking opposing offenses the way it did a season ago. And do not forget the subtle wrinkle that could push this offense over the top. The Broncos have leaned more heavily on offensive coordinator Davis Webb calling plays, and the difference in rhythm and creativity has already been noticeable this preseason. Some of the issues that bogged this offense down in stretches last year appear to already be smoothed out. And that is before you even factor in a healthy training camp with minimal missed time. While Denver deals with a couple of minor soft tissue tweaks here and there, nobody of significance is projected to miss the start of the regular season. Compare that injury report to what New England and Cincinnati are already dealing with before Labor Day, and the disparity becomes almost comical. So here is where we land, Broncos country. You have got a Patriots team dragging a national tabloid scandal into the season, patching their offensive line together with players Denver cut loose, and fighting their own star cornerback over a contract. You have got a Bengals team that cannot protect its franchise quarterback against a backup unit and has poured every dollar into 3 players while the trenches rot. You have got a Bills team betting its Super Bowl window on the league's youngest head coach, propped up by a retread who never got over the championship hump himself, while their own fans are being told how to feel about what they are watching. And somehow, all 3 of those teams are being handed more predicted wins than a Denver Broncos squad that made a championship run, upgraded at the one position that mattered most, and is bringing back its dominant pass rush fully intact. I do not know about you, But that gap between perception and reality is exactly the kind of thing that gets exploited in this league year after year. Denver quietly gets better while everyone else is distracted by scandal, injury, and dysfunction. Mark this one down. Week 1 is coming. The Kansas City Chiefs are not going to know what hit them. And this Broncos team is going to make every single one of those inflated win totals for New England, Cincinnati, and Buffalo look absolutely ridiculous by the time the dust settles in January. If this breakdown fired you up half as much as it fired me up putting it together, do not just sit there. Let us hear it. Smash that like button so this video reaches every corner of Broncos country. Drop a comment and tell me which one of these 3 teams you think collapses the hardest this season. And if you have not subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and stick with us, because we are covering every twist and turn of this Broncos season all the way to the Super Bowl. Broncos country, we have got a ton to blow into this year. 2 in a row, let us go get it.